Now I'm going to show you how to make buttery and sweet cornbread today. It also happens to be gluten-free. You bring this to a party and you'll have smiles for miles. So let's fix it. So this recipe calls for ½ cup of butter and 4 eggs. And I have that out right now sitting at room temperature. And the next thing I'm going to do is turn on my oven to 425 degrees. And also I'm going to grease my pan using some butter. And it's a 9 by 13 inch pan, which is the party size. We're making the party size recipe today. There's something very satisfying about this process of greasing up a metal pan. I can't explain it, you just have to try it. Make sure you get the sides also. Yeah, the sides are super important too. You don't want that cornbread to stick. All right, looks good. Okay, start off by measuring my dry ingredients and putting them in a bowl. So the flour, we need 2 cups of that. And with my gluten-free flour mix, that's almost 300 grams. It's 296. So I find Bob's Red Mill's gluten-free mix to be a really good substitute in a lot of baking applications. Highly recommended, and I always get good results. Now it's time to do the cornmeal. We need 4/3 of a cup or 192 grams. So I feel like dumping out the cornmeal like this gives a satisfying snowfall effect. But let's speed things up a little and make a blizzard. Okay, we need 4 teaspoons of baking powder. This is a 2 teaspoon spoon, that's why I only need 2 scoops. All right, now I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt. I'm using my eyeball method. Looks pretty good. Okay, we'll just mix that up real quick and set it aside. So once this is all mixed, you should have a beautiful light yellow color consistently throughout. Okay, now we're going to the mixer. Going to add the softened butter first, and then going to add the sugar with that and mix it up. We'll start with the butter. Wait a minute, why is the butter melted in the middle? And also, why is it a long stick? In the beginning it wasn't that shape. Something's wrong here. In the beginning of the video, the butter looked like this. So what happened? So I'll tell you what happened. I like to use Kerrygold butter. I mean, this stuff is great, it's super delicious. And so anyway, I also find it's a little more temperamental with baking than regular butter. So I started using Kerrygold, and so I think what happened is my kitchen was heating up with the oven going and everything, and plus being in Phoenix in the summer, it's hot anyway. The kitchen temperature probably got up close to 83 to 85 degrees. And even though I had the eggs out, the eggs didn't warm up as fast as the butter did. So when I put the eggs in with the warm butter, it probably shocked and then split. So then I remade using this kind of butter right here, just regular, stick butter, nothing fancy about it. And then the batter held. So there's some ways to avoid this. One way to avoid it is not to live in Phoenix, because in the summer it's too dang hot with the oven on in the house. Another way is you could actually use a little bit of flour as you're mixing it, and the flour will help emulsify things and keep it held together a little bit. I didn't do this, maybe I should have. Another way is to soak your eggs in warm water so they're a little bit warmer, and then maybe that will help. But my solution was just to remake it using regular butter, and then the batter held. So anyway, that's what happened. Now let's get back to it. Okay, we're now up to speed on the great butter mystery. So let's take a look at this butter. It's slightly melted in the middle because I softened it in the microwave in a hurry to get things going for the video. So anyway, it's a little liquid, but mostly solid. Once I mix it together in the mixer, I think the liquid parts will come together again, and then it'll be just softened butter and perfect for finishing up the cornbread. Okay, the butter is broken down. Now I'm going to add ½ cup of sugar. That's 100 grams if you're weighing at home. So I just decided to use the ½ cup measurer instead of taking the bowl off and using a scale, but I was careful to flatten off the top and get a nice measurement. Okay, then we'll mix that in for a few minutes. So making this cornbread batter is a lot like making a cake or cookies. You really want to emulsify the sugar and the butter to get a solid base. So while that's mixing, I'm going to crack my eggs into a bowl. You can use 4 eggs. So look at me being responsible for a change. I decided that since there were 4 eggs, I wanted to be careful not to get any shells in there. I think that deserves a like. Okay, that's looking like it's mixed pretty well, so I'm going to add my eggs one at a time. Yes, you want to add your eggs one at a time and emulsify each egg with the butter and sugar completely before you add another egg. You want to make sure you get a nice smooth mixture, and you don't want it to turn liquidy or to split like I showed you earlier. Just stop and scrape it down real quick. So I find I only need to scrape down the bowl after adding the first egg. Once the first egg is totally mixed, then the batter is soft enough where the other eggs mix in freely and it doesn't need to be scraped anymore. Okay, then we'll mix it a little more and start adding more eggs. Looks good, let's drop another egg in. So we're doing 1 egg at a time because we want everything to emulsify really well. If we put all the eggs at once, it might separate, and that would mean that your cornbread wouldn't be as good. Didn't I say that already? Well, one thing I learned as an educator, if something is important, you should repeat it more than once to help you remember. Unless, of course, your name is Tom.
Tom lost part of his brain in a hunting accident. His memory only lasts 10 seconds.
Of course, Tom never remembers he's in that accident anyway, but maybe you can remember about the eggs. So I always spend a couple extra minutes mixing, just want to make sure that everything's emulsified before I add anything else. That's looking good. Next thing I'm going to do is measure and add my sour cream. So the recipe calls for 1 cup of sour cream, which is 240 grams. I like to do sour cream by weight because it's kind of hard to get it all. It's just kind of a mess, so weight works better for me. All right, in we go with the sour cream. Sour cream is so delicious, I hate to waste any, so I try to get every last bit here. So once the sour cream is mixed in all the way, you should have this beautiful, creamy, consistent batter. Okay, that batter is looking really smooth. Now I'm going to measure and add 1 cup of milk. Oh, look at that as I slow drizzle the milk in. Such a nice shot there. That looks good, so now I'm going to add the dry ingredients. Oh, a little spillage there, but not too bad. It actually is kind of hard getting all the flour in when you're pouring from a bowl like that. So once again, you start the mixer out slow to integrate the flour. Once you're sure it's not going to create a dust storm in your kitchen, you can crank up the speed a little bit. Just going to mix it long enough so the lumps disappear. All right, it looks nice and smooth. So let's take it out of the mixer into the pan, and then we'll go into the oven. This is my favorite part. Taking extra care to get all that goodness from the bowl into the pan. So notice the batter is still kind of in the middle of the pan. I'll just spread it around real quick. You definitely want to take the time to do this, so that way the corners in the middle tend to cook a little more evenly. I mean, the corners tend to be a little extra done anyways, and it tends to rise in the middle as you bake. So make it as flat as reasonably possible before you put it in the oven. Okay, into the oven for about 22 minutes. All right, so the timer's going off now. I'm going to take a look, see how it is, do a toothpick test. Hopefully it's ready to come out of the oven. Okay, so this time the toothpick test, it came out with a little bit of dough on it still. So that means maybe it needs to cook another 2 minutes or so. So I gave it the extra 2 minutes. The toothpick is pretty clean now, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out. We'll take a look at that. That's something, huh? So just let it cool off for a while and give it a taste.
Maybe I ought to eat your cornbread.
Help yourself there, buddy. There's plenty to share. It's time for my favorite part, the taste test. So I cut a few slices here. You can see a couple of them. Looks very good. The crumb, yes, it's very light. Just gonna give it a little try without any toppings on it first, just to see how it is plain. It's very light, nice crumb. Yeah, it tastes amazing. But as we know with cornbread, we always have to add a little butter. In spite of having trouble using Kerrygold butter when I was making the batter, I'm still putting it on top of that cornbread. That's so nice. I'll just stand here for a while and chew. So there you go. A fairly easy cornbread recipe. It's gluten-free, very, very delicious. I hope you try this recipe at home, share it with your friends and family, and thanks for watching.